he thought of doing for us. In fact, if he was the president then, Modibo Okran would have become the Chief Justice of Ghana. Now, going into this whole thing, I will start by praising my senior and my lecturer for the very honest assessment he has made. And that is where I also stand, that a lot of people started the war before Kwame Nkrumah was brought in. But when you wanted to push him back to 1897, I mean, the professor made you to know that the aim of the Aborigines Rights Protection Society was to protest against the Lands Bill. And they never went to Britain to ask for independence. And when they became successful in that regard, the organization dwindled and eventually fizzled out its position to be taken by the National Congress of British West Africa. Now it is true that the United Gold Coast Convention was formed by a group of people and with the slogan, self-government within the shortest possible time. That alone should tell you that they were also aimed at fighting for independence. But where I want to go is the fact that Pa Grant was a businessman, a timber merchant. All the other leading members of the party were full-time businessmen and or lawyers who did not have time to do active politics. Two.
We know this was like part-time work for them, as and when they had time.
Part-time. And to make it even worse, people should begin to know that most of the leading members were also members of the colonial parliament, the legislative assembly. Sorry, it was the legislative council, like Grant representing Second D, Dankwa representing Achimebuakwa, Awuno Williams, Obechebi Lamte. They were already members of the colonial parliament and therefore never in a haste for the fight for independence. And so they thought that there must be somebody who would have to be the active administrator of the UGCC, do it full time, give him a car, give him £100 a month, so that the organization would be kept relevant until the time that the white man, the colonial master, decide to leave the country. Then we will be seen as a people prepared to take over. And that was why Nkrumah was brought in after the suggestion of Akuffo Addo. Now when he came, he had a different notion altogether, as Professor was saying. Professor would agree with me. He's an astute political scientist. He was my lecturer. Professor would agree with me that Kwame Nkrumah had studied in the US with about 50 countries coming together as one. And so he never believed in the idea of looking for independence for the colony. And at that time, the colony was Western Province, Sekendi Takoradi, Central Province, Cape Coast, Eastern Province, Accra. Transvaal Togoland was not part of it. Ashanti was being ruled by proclamations, and they're not. Yes. Yeah. So UGCC, even when you look at the bill, our city, you see that the people captured there, none of them was from Volta. Who told you that Voltarians have not all the time had great scholars to be part of this organization? Talk about Northerners, talk about Ashanti, Bono. They were not there because it was restricted to the colony. And everybody knows that J.B. Dankwa in his writings had suggested the name Akanman for Ghana. Then when Nkrumah came, he augmented the two branches of the UGCC he came to find. One in Accra, one in Second D. You know, within 4 months, he had transformed it into 500 branches. And they were angry with him. Second, 1948 riots. It was suspected that Nkrumah and Akuffo Addo were those who pushed the ex-servicemen to do all that they did. In any case, Akuffo Addo joined the others. So when they were writing their caution statement, they were very careful not to talk about independence. It was Nkrumah who, in his raw caution statement, a copy of which I have read, stated that he was the one, he would just take the blame for all that had happened because he wanted independence. And then the rest were put in prison in Kumasi. He was put in prison in Tamale. Then the Watson Commission said they should be released, and they were released. Thereafter, as Professor had already told you, his ideas were fundamentally different from the rest. So what will happen was that he will break away. When he broke away, and this is the beginning of the story, when Kwame Nkrumah break away, and what makes him the founder of the nation is that, having formed the CPP, he made sure, as his organization skills had always been, the party will be a national party. But the National Liberation Movement that broke away from the CPP because of Cocoa and other agitations became an Ashanti party. Then the northern people who felt that during the colonial period, the white man had designed an imaginary line between the north and south so that no northerners should be sent to school, so that they would do watchman work, so many things unprintable. Felt after independence, they would, instead of the white man, serve the black man. That one, they would decide to go away. So they formed the Northern People's Party. Then the Transvoter people...
Which later would become problematic moving forward because we didn't want parties formed on ethnic lines.
So the later, that would become problematic. Later would move for the avoidance of discrimination so that all of them will be put together. So you will see that Transvoter Togoland Party and the SG Anto, SD Dombo's Party, Bafwa Koto's Party, and then Gashifi Mope Muslim Association Party were all sectional or sectorial in kind, and therefore could not have won independence for the country. That was the reason why in the 1954 elections, the CPP won seats in every part of the country, but NLM was restricted to Ashanti, and then others restricted to wherever they came from. So you see how we say Nkrumah was the founder of the nation, but for Kwame Nkrumah, the UGCC haven't been dismantled after the 1951 election. In fact, we had 38 seats, and Kwame Nkrumah won 34 seats. Correct. UGCC won 3, independent 1. And after that, to phase it out. Then the Ashanti people, there is a piece of tribalism in politics. The Ashantis have never liked the Achimebuakwa people. So when they realized Park Grant had become very old, J.B. Dankwa was very preeminent. The Asantehene preferred Kwame Nkrumah to J.B. Dankwa. So when his people would not allow him, they would break away from the CPP. They rather went for Professor Kofi Abrefa Buzia, then an Ashanti. I say then an Ashanti because even though a Bono from Wenchi, at that time, Bono was Western Ashanti. So they chose their own man. Please, J.B. Dankwa died in 1965. He didn't die in 1954. But the Matimeho tradition, the UP tradition, and the LM tradition did not go for him. Did not go for him. So he became politically irrelevant. Then, because of the troubles, Nkrumah couldn't have independence. And then a new one, 1956. Please, if you want me to read something here, very short.
Just briefly.
Brief. I will say that in...
Where are you reading from?
Oh, very good. Proceedings of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. Yes, 1974.
Dated which year? 1974.
Yes, right. And this is the piece written by Joe Appiah. No. And the title is The Man J.B. Dankwa. And he says that in 1950, the dawning of Goko politics, speaking about Dankwa, lost his Abuakwa constituency seat to a nephew of his. J.B. was shocked to the marrow of his bones by this defeat. Then to continue from page 29, he says, in 1955, the State Council of his home state of Achimebuakwa, in recognition of all his services, installed J.B. as the Trafohene of Achimebuakwa. That was the highest accolade that he got to. He fizzled out. But today, well, before I say but today, let's continue that. 9 full years before we had independence, Kwame Nkrumah had put together the students of Mfansepim, Adesadel and Augustins and their teachers who had been dismissed because they had gone out to support.
Abusuafo bibi akwa famra 2K News and Blogs eso abusuaba ne se ne kese sama hodo a ekoso e wo gara hase na na yabobo bia no a ye ba so mo e wo channel we so adaruma ye beko ni akwa akotie nsem akwa akwo videos ahodo na to aso no bansa na no mese so nya subscribe ya na subscribe the ama channel way. We are feel free so better wadwin or comment section. Ye ho tie e be kenkan dia ma no ahye amofofo nso ene di ahye. Abusua mem pese me kasa be watu yenko he video ne emra.